Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So, I just watched Creed 3. Let's talk about it. So Creed 3 is directed by none other than Michael B. Jordan. Oh my god, yes. Adonis Creed himself has stepped up to the plate with his directorial debut, directing the third entry into the Creed franchise and the 50th entry into the Rocky franchise. Listen, I don't know how many Rocky films I've been in total. Okay, but this is so exciting to see. The fact that the star of this franchise has, stepped up and taken this directorial role is just so incredible and amazing. And it couldn't have happened to a more talented actor. So I was so excited to see this film, especially after watching the trailer in IMAX and when I watched Avatar 2, and my excitement increased even more as the weeks went on, especially seeing behind the scenes footage of Michael B. Jordan directing and of course of his co-star, none other than our favorite industry plant himself, Mr. Jonathan Majors. All around, we're having a great time and I was so looking forward to this film, especially because I think the Creed franchise overall is one of the most underrated franchises that we have today. I think it's a perfect continuation of the Rocky franchise and modernization of it. And so, like I said, I was really excited going into this movie, and we are about to talk about whether or not it met the level of hype that I had. But before we get into all of that good stuff, as per usual, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you can be told when I upload next. It's been a really tough upload schedule for the past couple of months, unfortunately. In 2023, I'm still struggling with the motivation and honestly a little bit of the self-esteem for the past couple of months, but it's looking like I might have much better luck this month because the release schedule looks so much more interesting than it has in the past few months. So fingers crossed I can get more reviews out for you guys and I'll have more interest in diving into the various releases of this month and beyond. But before we dive into the rest of March, we need to talk about the first movie up, which is of course Creed 3. So let's discuss. So as I mentioned before, Creed 3 is not only the latest entry into the Creed franchise, but it is of course part of the extended Rocky cinematic universe. Because it is the, 10th, 100th Rocky movie, technically speaking. However, it is the first Rocky movie to not feature the titular character himself as portrayed by Sylvester Stallone. And I did read a couple of the interviews that he had done prior to the release of this film, where he talked about why he didn't return. And his reasons were a little bit vague, but my understanding was that he said something about this script seeming a bit more dark and brooding, or a direction that he wasn't quite comfortable with being a part of. And I think that may also be a side effect of him having this hugely successful franchise and it kind of being in the hands of new talent, a new generation of talent like Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, and perhaps he's struggling with that lack of control, because he did have to sell the rights to the franchise, I believe, to MGM, so he can't do anything about it, even though he wrote the original screenplay and he created this character. But I think the major question for a lot of Rocky fans going into this Rocky-less movie was whether the franchise can continue, can survive, can even thrive without Sylvester Stallone. And in my humble, personal opinion, the answer to that question is, oh, yes. The answer to that question is yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And Sylvester, listen, collect your checks and sit down, sir. You have done a huge service to the industry. You've played your part, but let the kids handle this one for now. Let the kids handle this one. Michael B. Jordan stepped up to the plate and he did not miss. What? He did not miss. I absolutely love this film. Yep, let me make that clear right here, right now. I absolutely loved this movie. So in terms of the plot, I believe the story was actually written by Ryan Coogler, who's still a producer in this film. He's still very involved with this franchise, even though he's not in the director's seat anymore. I think that's really great because it gives this whole franchise a very unified feel, even though each film has had a different director at this point. But here the story is very, very simple in terms of the plot. Like here you have the, a titular character, Adonis Creed. He has reached the peak of his success, the peak of his fame and fortune, where he has this, global championship fight in South Africa a couple of years back. He wins and gets the title of the world's champion heavyweight something. I'm not a boxing person, by the way. I'm not a boxing person, by the way, so I don't know what the fudge I'm talking about. Anyway, but he won the championship, and then he decides to retire, which I think is very smart. I think it's retire on a high, okay? So it makes sense to me. So he decides to retire after winning the championship, and he's living the life. He has this huge house, he has all of these sponsorships, you see ads of him with Ralph Lauren. Like, he is living a dream life with his wife Bianca and their daughter Amara. But then all of a sudden his perfect world gets shaken up when he sees this mysterious figure from his past, someone that he would have preferred to forget about because of the questionable decisions that he made when he was much, much younger. But they've come to chase him back up again, and this mysterious figure turns out to be Dame Anderson, who is portrayed by none other than our favorite industry plant. Okay, and he is fresh out of prison here. Okay, he was in prison for 18 years for an incident that took place involving Creed, but he had run away and left his friends to suffer the consequences on his own, and he is riddled with guilt over that, and all of these kind of suppressed emotions kind of come bubbling up to the surface when he sees his friend one day kind of leaning on his Rolls Royce. Like, it's about to go down. It's about to go down. The second that you see Jonathan Majors with a bomber jacket and that hat, okay, and the hat, fresh out of prison, it's about to go down. You already know. Now, overall, I would say that the story itself is very, very simple. The idea that you have, a friend from the past, and yes, he's never been mentioned previously in the Creed franchise, because of course this is a whole new character and whole new idea that they're introducing. I think they do a decent job of explaining why Creed wanted to suppress all of these memories previously, and that's why he never brought it up. It makes sense within the context of the story why we've never heard of Damien, or Dame as he's also called. So whilst I think that this story is quite simple, it's a story of brotherhood and misunderstandings and betrayal. It's quite Shakespearean in a way, and also Michael B. Jordan apparently has taken a lot of inspiration from like anime, which he loves. So it's that kind of story that you would see depicted in such media, which again stems back to like Shakespeare. So overall, a very simple outline, but I think what boosts it for sure, in fact, I know for a fact what boosts it is the performances by the lead actors, Michael B. Jordan, and in particular Jonathan Majors. That is what really sells the history and the chemistry that we didn't even know about before this film began. So let's start off with Michael B. Jordan, because not only is he the director, but he's also portraying the titular character, and I think he knocked it out of the park on both fronts. I think when it came to his directing, the fact that this is his directorial debut, oh my god, the come up. That is wild. This man has been producing, he's been acting, like he has been so busy building up this portfolio, and the fact that he got a chance to direct this entry into a franchise that made him a global star is just incredible. And I really want to emphasize that, because I feel like a lot of the light has gone to Jonathan Majors for good reason. Okay, because he's our favorite industry plant, but I want to remind y'all of our previous favorite industry plant, Michael B. Jordan, who's been working in this industry for like over a decade now, and he's been 2 decades now, and he's been killing it every time. And so this is just like his rewards for like all his great work, and the fact that this film has been so well received, I think is just a really great note in his already impressive resume. And not only that, but this week he even got the star in Hollywood. Was it Hollywood Boulevard? The Hollywood Star? Oh my god. Can you tell I've never been to America? The Hollywood, the Walk of Fame, I think it's called. Walk of Fame. He got his start, okay? It's a really touching moment. It's a great week for Michael B. Jordan, and I think he knocked it out of the park with his directorial choices. I mean, some of them felt a little bit goofy at times when you had the action sequences and the montages, like really kind of laying that on thick. But I like the fact that he wasn't afraid to have that emotionality, and it seemed like he was having a good time directing. Like, I could tell that he wasn't phoning it in. He was trying different things, especially when depicting the action sequences, the boxing. Like, he was trying, you know, different ways to do that, to keep it fresh and to keep it new. And there were some, you know, choices that he made that I liked less than others, but either way, I appreciated the dynamicism of him trying. And then when it came to his acting in this film, I think he knocked it out of the park as per usual. I think it was a slightly different kind of take on Creed at this point, and a different take on a Michael B. Jordan character as well, because usually his characters are kind of like the underdog that they have like a chip on their shoulder, and he has something to prove and he has something to overcome. And that is a running theme throughout the Rocky franchise in general, which is why I think it suits Michael B. Jordan so well. But I think in this film, because he has reached his success, he's retired even, he's, you know, gone through and won all of the belts that he could get. I'm a sports aficionado, as you can tell. He's got all the belts, okay? He's got all the gigs, he's got all the sponsorships, he's got all the money, and he has his, you know, gorgeous wife and his gorgeous child. So, like, he has nothing to prove at the beginning of the film. And so the idea that you have to kind of bring him to that level where he has to be on the ground again, like he was in the first movie, I think Michael B. Jordan really delivered in depicting that kind of, you know, downfall of the character. It was done very swiftly, you know, to keep the story moving quickly, but I think he did a good job of convincing us that he had gone to that headspace again. But of course, one thing that certainly helped with depicting the downfall of Adonis Creed in this movie was the fact that his opponent was so impressive. And in comes, yes, as I've been saying, Jonathan Majors, our favorite industry plant. Guys, this man can act. This, yeah, he's got the goods, okay? This man can act. This man is incredibly charismatic. Like, I'm sorry, but the vibe is there. It's real. The hype is real. First of all, I just wanted to point out something that I kept thinking about as I was watching the movie, and that was that both Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors have this ability to, from the neck down, look incredibly strong. Like the epitome of the alpha male, okay? Incredibly strong, chiseled muscles in places that I didn't even know muscles existed. Like the physique is just like, it speaks for itself. I have no words to describe it. It speaks for itself. But then from the neck up, we have this face acting where they're able to kind of contort their features to make themselves look like puppies. Let me explain. Let me explain. Especially with Jonathan Majors, like there'll be scenes where it's all about depicting pain and regret and all of these repressed emotions to the point where the character is visibly turning back into a child. And there are points where Michael B. Jordan depicts this like literally when you see footage of their younger selves, but it's more effective even when you have these talented actors who are able to depict it just from their faces, and in particular with their eye acting. And they both have the incredible ability of doing this, where you see these strong men fighting it out, boxing, but if you look in their eyes, you see that they're all the way back, you know, 18 years ago when they were just kids getting in trouble. Like that ability to convey that, okay, with just your face acting and eye acting and forehead wrinkle acting. In the case of Jonathan Majors, I was impressed. Not gonna lie, I was really impressed. When it comes to Jonathan Majors, I mean, first of all, you know, physically he's so much more imposing, so you see him as a literal larger threat. He had that kind of ruggedness to him where he wasn't as refined and, you know, well trained as, you know, Creed, because Creed has just been doing this for so long, but also he's been in like the professional setting, whereas in the case of Dame, like he's coming out of prison, he hasn't read the rule book in I don't know. I don't know how long it's been since he read that rule book, boy, okay? And even still, if he has read it, he hasn't been paying attention that much. Like, he's not actually adhering to those rules. He's playing rough, he's bending the rules, and the ref is letting him get away with it, whatever. Anyway, so you definitely have that contrast between the characters that I think both actors really sell. But another element with the character of Damien that we discover is that switch up, right? Like halfway through the film, where he wins his first fight against Felix, and all of a sudden you see a different side to the character all the time, because I was rooting for them to be besties, okay? In the first third of the movie, where Damien's gotten out and they're having burgers together and he gets invited to Creed's house and they're just hanging out with Amara and Bianca, and I'm just like, oh, I just want these guys to be friends. I don't want them to fight. But the second that he wins against Felix after fighting dirty, he switches up. And also, side note here, right? But who was the jeweler that sold Damien a diamond necklace literally within seconds of him winning the first fight? Because seconds after he wins, he's out on the beach partying with all his friends. All of a sudden he has all these friends and he has a diamond necklace on. And I'm just like, what jewelers did you go to that was prepared to give you that literally after you just won? But anyways, it was really remarkable to see how Damien had just switched up on Creed. Like, it was all a ruse. It was all a lie. And I had been bamboozled just as Creed had. But then when we get to the end of the film, of course, after Creed and Dame have fought against each other, you see the return of that childlike version of Dame that's, you know, really sorry for how things transpired. And, you know, he thinks back to 18 years ago where they were brothers, where they were so close before that horrible incident, you know, broke them apart forever. I do think that that was a decent arc for the character. He was very quickly humbled after losing against Creed. I don't think it's the strongest storyline because, you know, it's a very quick kind of transformation straight after the fight. You know, that he feels that remorse and he admits that he doesn't blame Creed for what happened. Like, it's a bit fast, okay? He needs some time to kind of step back and think about his actions before admitting that, you know, for that to make more sense. And also there were some inconsistencies with like a C or D storyline that the film has about this approach to fighting that Creed has. It's a discussion that he and Bianca have, you know, previously, and I guess in the end we're supposed to feel like he has rejected fighting as a solution to his issues, but he hasn't really, because he just fought the guy. Like, but we'll talk about that more later when we get to the Bianca section of it all. But either way, Jonathan Majors absolutely acted the hell out of those scenes and convinced us of the character's remorse, even though narratively speaking, it wasn't the strongest story point. Now, before we dive into some of the parts of this movie that I wasn't such a huge fan of, I did just want to dive into arguably the main attraction, okay, of the Creed / Rocky franchise, and that is the boxing action sequences, guys. Because even though we love some good writing, we love some good acting, okay, and good character work, you know, we can get that in a lot of places, although not these days because the films be letting me down. They're letting me down here, okay? But most of the time we can get them in a lot of places. But what we can't get elsewhere, for the most part, are exceptional boxing action sequences in a movie. That's why you go to a Rocky movie, okay? And this film absolutely delivered, yeah. It absolutely delivered. As I said before, Michael B. Jordan tries these different things in order to depict these action sequences and make them special, you know, make them different. I don't love all of the choices that he makes, but I did, for instance, enjoy the sequence where it was just, you know, Creed and Dame on their own. They're fighting against each other and the crowd disappears. Although I saw it with my brother and he did not like that. So, like I said, you know, some people might like some choices and some choices might be less popular. So I really enjoyed the final action sequence between Dame and Creed. I felt like they were very evenly matched, and I think that was very humble of Michael B. Jordan to have that, you know, be depicted, because we know there are some stars out here on these streets, okay, who refuse to be I don't know, like humiliated, or, you know, to be shown as, you know, not winning every single fight, Dwayne Johnson. So the fact that Michael B. Jordan was okay with getting his ass kicked in his own stage, you know, on his own stage, on his own movie, I think there's a level of humility that's involved there. Now, to be fair, he wins ultimately, but it's a convincing win because they were both neck and neck for so long. And I also enjoyed the previous boxing sequence between Dame and Felix. Well, first of all, Felix's entrance was badass. Felix's entrance was everything. I wish everyone had that same energy, okay, truly. I understood why Dame's was a bit more, you know, understated and grounded because he was just like a newcomer, but I wish, you know, even Creed doesn't have like an entrance that was quite as impressive as Felix's. So that was incredible. With that action sequence, you get to learn so much about Dame's character, you know. You actually get to see the kind of person that he is and the kind of fighter that he has become after years of, you know, training and putting his all into it, and it also kind of corrupting him to make him really angry and vengeful. Okay, so now that I sung the praises of this film, there were a couple of bits and pieces that I wasn't as much of a fan of that we shall dive into right now, I guess. Okay, so first of all, we need to talk about the wife. We need to talk about the wife. Listen, when it comes to, you know, sports movies, especially sports movies with male protagonists, they'll oftentimes have the wife character. And I feel like this character has evolved over the years. I do think that Bianca is a compelling character in her own right. She's had somewhat of an arc, you know, across this franchise, in, you know, to be fair. And I think it has been effective-ish. I think it's been present. Unfortunately, as much as I enjoy this franchise, you know, it's not the most considerate of the female character. I'm sorry. Don't know what to tell you, you know. So yeah, Bianca served as a great love interest, and now she's the wife and she's, you know, there. That's what she does. There's a small storyline surrounding the fact that, you know, obviously she was going deaf in the previous films, and so now she can't perform her own music, and so she has to get people like Kalani. Oh, Kalani has to perform my music now. She has to get people like Kalani, you know, performing her songs, and it hurts because she herself is a singer and she would love to be there, you know, in person. And I thought that that storyline was gonna go somewhere, like maybe she was gonna perform at his final match again. Like I just felt like there needed to be a third kind of part to that storyline, but it just kind of dissipated away and it wasn't, you know, quite as effective. They tried to tie it into, I guess, Creed also feeling like he had to get back on stage, so to speak, get back in the ring after his retirement, especially after Dame had egged him on. I guess that's how they tried to tie those things together. But when it comes to her unique storyline, if you could even call it that, it just kind of, you know, dissipated, you know, faded away into the background. So that wasn't great. And then you also had the introduction or reintroduction of a much more grown-up Amara, their daughter, who was born deaf. So, you know, they've all had to learn sign language in order to communicate with her, which I think is wonderful. I think it was so touching to see, you know, the family communicate with one another. The fact that Creed has really committed to being able to communicate with his deaf daughter and make her feel special at every turn. You see, you know, his life as a girl dad. Okay, early on in the film, you know, when he's playing tea parties with her, like, it's cute. Okay, it's cute. Okay, they know what they're doing. It's adorable. Okay, everyone's ovaries are bursting. But I will say, when it comes to that storyline, again, it kind of feels like it dissipates, you know, into nothing. Now, apparently, I don't know if this is confirmed, but apparently there will be a fourth movie, you know, especially if this one does well. So maybe that's what they're trying to set up for, the idea that the daughter could one day take on the Creed legacy herself and become a fighter or a boxer. And that would be great down the line. But in terms of these two characters' storylines, you know, within this film, within the context of Creed 3, they felt very incomplete and they felt like filler, which is a shame because this directly ties into my second issue with this film, and that was there wasn't enough Dame, and there certainly wasn't enough expansion of Dame's story. I think the most glaring example of the lack of exploration of the character of Dame comes after his first match with Felix, where all of a sudden you see him living it up in this like luxury apartment. Okay, he's got again this diamond necklace that someone sold to him, okay, within a minute's notice. He's living it up in this luxury apartment. He has this like girl by his side. Like the switch up is real, you know, going from that tiny apartment that he had when he was fresh out of prison to, you know, winning that championship fight. I mean, obviously he would have gotten a ton of money, you know, I'm guessing, especially because he was the underdog in that fight and people were betting against him. Like perhaps that's how, again, not a sports aficionado. But it was a very quick come up, you know, it did feel very rushed. And honestly, that whole plot point is kind of rushed, right? The idea that he could shoot straight to the global stage after having one fight with one guy and knocking him out cold using questionable tactics, mind you. Yeah, you know, it was convenient, but we needed him to fight against the world champion Creed, and so needs must, I guess. And speaking of undercooked storylines, the third one comes in the form of the death of Creed's mother. That was also quite rushed to me. I don't think we needed all three storylines of Bianca, you know, missing her days as a singer and being able to perform, and their daughter fighting in school and getting into trouble, you know, punching kids up, and also the death of Creed's mother. Like, I don't think we needed all three of those storylines. We could have sacrificed one of them for hopefully Creed 4 and given Dame more, you know, time to shine and actually explore this character in a little bit more depth, whilst also fleshing out some of the other, you know, storylines that would be left behind. And also, as I alluded to earlier, I did have issues with the lack of clarity when it came to the whole fighting isn't always a great solution storyline, because Bianca says this, you know, after they've been arguing a ton, and then in the end when, you know, Dame kind of threatens Creed, or he gets up in his face and punches him, Bianca's like, okay, well, you gotta fight him now. Sis switches up her message and she's like, oh, he punched you in the face, you gotta fight. Guys, overall, I had a fantastic time with this film. It feels so good to be back. It feels so good to go to the cinema and see an excellent movie again. It's been a while. I think the last time I felt this way was honestly with Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's been a long time, okay? But I think Michael B. Jordan, you know, knocked it out of the park for his directorial debut. I mean, this is such an accomplishment. Although I shouldn't be surprised because he's been in the industry for so long. It's not like he's a newcomer, but he's definitely a newcomer to this field, you know, within the industry, and he absolutely delivered, I'm happy to say. And also, this is the first sports movie shot on IMAX cameras, so that's very exciting. The film looked very impressive. I saw it on a massive screen, but it wasn't quite IMAX, but still a very impressive and impactful cinema going experience. It was just what I needed. It cheered me up, and so I'm very happy to say that I'm going to be giving Creed 3 an 8 out of 10. So that's it from me, guys. Now that I told you my thoughts on Creed 3, it's time for you guys to let me know what you thought of this movie down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch new videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.